Welcome back to my homeschool channel. In my last few videos, I've been sharing my curriculum choices for the upcoming school year for my 4th and 1st grader. Last video, I shared our science choice for the year, so if you haven't checked that out, be sure to do so. And today, I'm excited to share my language arts choice for my 4th grader. We're going to be using First Language Lessons Level 4. The whole First Language Lessons is a homeschool grammar curriculum for grades 1 through 4 that takes elements of Charlotte Mason style education and classical style education and blends them together, which works really great for our homeschool because these are the two styles that I tend to follow the most. It has a good deal of poetry, art, narration, and stories in it, which is common in Charlotte Mason approaches, but it also has a lot of recitation and memory work, which can be found in classical approaches. The authors of this curriculum call the blending of these two styles their four-strand approach. So their curriculum focuses on memory work, copy work and dictation, narration, and then direct grammar practices like diagramming sentences. I've used First Language Lessons before when my oldest daughter was in 1st and 2nd grade. I used their levels 1 and level 2, and I did a video on those levels if you want to go back and find that video. I felt that it really gave my oldest daughter a good foundation of parts of speech and rules of grammar. She can still rattle off definitions of the parts of speech like nouns and verbs, and even recall some of the poetry that she memorized in 1st grade. So I really felt like this four-strand approach really helped strengthen her recall ability. I'm super excited to use this again with her in 4th grade, so let's go ahead and get into it. I will share the things that I like about this curriculum. I'll share kind of what a lesson looks like on the inside, and then I'll also share some cons that you might want to be aware of if you're thinking about using this in your family. The first thing I like about this curriculum is that it is open and go. It doesn't require any prep work, especially if you get the student workbook to go along with it. The lessons are scripted for the parent, so you can see that each lesson has some bolded text which tells the parent what they're supposed to say, and then it also has some example answers that your student can give. The book is very well laid out. It's easy to follow. The lessons build on each other incrementally, so as a parent, it's not confusing. You don't tend to get lost or try to understand what they're trying to teach. It's very straightforward, very simple, but very effective. The other thing that I like about this curriculum is that all you really need to complete this book is this book right here. It doesn't come with a separate teacher's guide. Everything you need to know is in this book. It does come with a separate student workbook, which I've decided to purchase for my daughter this year, and I will show you some examples of why I chose that. But I know a lot of families that just use a blank lined notebook for their kids to complete the activities that are required in this book. Let me show you what I mean by that. In this lesson, you can see that there's an optional dictation exercise at the bottom. So the exercise for your student is to copy this phrase down in their notebook. Now, this is something that you could easily do in a blank notebook, no problem. However, in the next lesson, you'll see that they are supposed to match these nouns with the category of noun that it falls into, either person, place, thing, or idea. Now, if you want them to do it in a blank notebook and you don't want to have to write all those things down, you could also complete that exercise orally and just have your child tell you if that noun falls into the person, place, thing, or idea category. And that's another great perk of this curriculum. If your student isn't a strong writer or gets exhausted easily by having to write a lot, then there are a lot of things in this workbook that you can just have them complete orally to you during your lesson time. But if you wanted to have some sort of record or something for them to look back on the school year that shows their completed work, then you would have to write those lists down in the notebook in order for them to complete those activities. And this is also true for a little bit later on in the program when they have to do sentence diagramming. So you would have to draw out those diagramming lines for them to fill in the words. I personally didn't want to do that this year, so I just went ahead and purchased the student workbook online. They have a PDF version available, and so I just downloaded that, and I'll be printing that out for my 4th grader to use this year. The third reason I really like this curriculum is that the lessons aren't full of a bunch of fluff and busy work. Each lesson can be completed in a really reasonable amount of time. For levels 1 and 2, the lessons only took about 10 minutes. There's not really any writing required in those levels, but there is writing required in levels 3 and 4, so these lessons take a little bit longer, but the authors suggest that they should only take 20 to 30 minutes per lesson, and if it's going to take more than 30 minutes, that you go ahead and pause the lesson and then pick up again where you left off the next day. I love that as a whole, with only 89 lessons in the book, there's lots of flexibility, and it gives you lots of space and time to complete the lessons at a very relaxed pace. Something that parents might see as a drawback to this curriculum is that this book is very parent intensive, meaning that your lessons really have to be one-on-one with your child. Last year in 3rd grade, my daughter basically completed her language arts curriculum through Abeka independently. In some ways that was awesome because it freed up my time to work with her younger sister who was just starting kindergarten, and she needed a lot of one-on-one attention last year. And of course I gave my daughter instruction and attention in some other ways, but I did feel like I missed out on some key instructional moments with her, and that she was missing out on some of the benefits of having some one-on-one time with me to instruct her through her lessons. So I purposely chose this curriculum because it is a scripted one-on-one lesson between me and my child, and so I felt like I really wanted to spend that one-on-one time with her, giving her detailed instruction and making sure that she's really understanding the concepts of these grammar rules before we start moving into the higher grades, 5th grade next year and then into middle school. So I really wanted to do that this year with my child, to have that one-on-one time. I knew that when I purchased the book that it was going to be this way. It's not something that you can hand to your child and have them do the lesson on your own. Even if you buy the student workbook, the workbook does not have any instructions in it. So it won't tell them how to complete the exercises. It's still going to require you as the parent to sit down and read through the lesson with them. That might not work for your family this year. You might need something that allows your child to be a little bit more independent. So that's something to keep in mind if you're thinking about this curriculum. Another potential drawback of this curriculum is that it's not very flashy or pretty. When you look inside this book, you're not going to find any pictures that are engaging, any colorful text or stories or fun themes woven throughout the book. It's just the text of the lessons. This is going to be a big change for my daughter. She's used to the colorful themes that Abeka weaves through their math and language curriculums, but I honestly think the fact that I'm going to be sitting down with her and engaging with her throughout each lesson is going to make up for the fact that there aren't any fun pictures on the page to engage her or keep her entertained while she's doing her work. She also really won't be seeing the text-heavy pages, so I'm mostly going to be keeping this book in front of me and reading through it and just asking for oral responses from her. Sometimes I might have her look at the page so she can read through some of the lists, but she's not going to be opening this up to the text-heavy pages and getting overwhelmed by just the amount of words on the page, because it's mostly something that is going to be in front of me and that I'm going to be reading to her. And then the last thing that I could see could maybe be a drawback for some families is that there isn't a whole lot of hands-on or kinesthetic activities in this book. So there's no drawing activities, no art projects for them to do. There are a few times when they include clapping to help you memorize the list or trying to keep a rhythm while you memorize something, but that's not for all of it. I know when I use levels 1 and 2, I would make up the hand motions for some of the lists that we had to memorize, like the definition of a noun, and that really helped my daughter to remember it, and she can still do those hand motions now whenever I ask her to tell me the definition of a noun. But that was something that I had to come up with on my own. It wasn't included in the curriculum. So it could be nice if they added in a few things like that to make it a little bit more engaging for the student. I would say that this curriculum is really better suited for more auditory learners. So if your child is very active and really needs to have their hands on things or likes to move a lot, then this might not be the best fit for them. But as always, you can adjust the curriculum to meet your needs. If you want to do this curriculum and you want to add an artwork to go along with the poem you're memorizing, then you can do that. Just because it doesn't say to do it in the book doesn't mean you can't add that in. If you want to make up some chants or some hand motions to go along with the list that you're required to memorize, then feel free to do that as well. Remember to always weigh the pros and cons of the curriculums that you're choosing and know that you have the freedom to adjust within the curriculum however you think would best fit your family. If you're considering a curriculum but you're not sure about some of the cons that come along with it, sit and think about what those cons are and if you can change them at all to adjust to fit the needs of your family if you like everything else in the curriculum. If you can, then go for that curriculum and know that you have the freedom to change it up a little bit. But if you've considered the cons and you think it's just not going to be a good fit, then you also have the freedom to say no to that curriculum and find something that works for you and your family. So now that I've kind of given you an overview of the things that I like about it and some of the drawbacks of the curriculum, I want to open up the book and show you what it looks like on the inside, and then also take you through one of the lessons so you can kind of see how it's laid out and how it flows. So opening up the book, you have your table of contents, of course, that give you kind of an overview of what each lesson is going to be about. You can see that they have 89 lessons to complete the book, And then they also have some optional end lessons that go over how to write letters and some dictionary skill lessons. They talk a little bit more about their 4-strand approach and why they've chosen that and why they think that's helpful. And then they give a little bit of instruction on how to use the lesson. Okay, so here's lesson 1. So it has the title of the lesson at the top, what you're going to be talking about today. So for lesson 1, they're going to be talking about the parts of this book. And then here you can see that it has instructor in bold. And then on this paragraph right here is what you are supposed to say as the teacher. Underneath that, it has student, and it gives an example of what their response might be. A little further down, it's instructor again, what you're going to say. And you're going to tell them to complete exercise 1 of your notebook. So your student would go ahead and in their notebook or in their workbook, they would copy the title of this book. Then it goes down instructor again, and it tells you what to say to your child, has your student give the answer, and then it tells them to complete the second exercise. You can see that it just follows that sample through the lesson, giving you exactly what you should say. Some parents I know don't like that because they feel boxed in and they don't want to have to say word for word what is being told to them to say, but sometimes this can be really helpful if you're not a grammar expert and you really want to make sure that you're being thorough in the education you're giving your child. At the bottom of the page here, it has a 3rd exercise for them to complete in either their workbook or their notebook, which is learning how to make a copyright symbol. So they're just going to draw that, see, and put a circle around it, and then you're going to follow the lesson through with some more dialogue between the instructor and the student. So then at the end of this lesson is an optional dictation exercise. Dictation is when you read the sentence to your child and then they have to write it down from memory. The authors of this book say to read the sentence twice, have your child say the sentence back to you, and then have your child to write it down. This is really good for engaging their visual and motor senses and to really picture the sentence in their head before they put it down on paper. So if you do have your child do this dictation exercise, at the end of lesson 1, they would have only written down in their notebook a couple of things. They would have written down the name of the book, they would have written down the author's name, they would have written down or drawn the copyright symbol, and then they would write the dictation sentences that you have, and then that would be it for lesson 1. So there's not a whole lot of writing involved, but there is a lot of dialogue here. And you can see moving on to lesson 2 that it follows that same pattern of instructor-student dialogue, which is really great. Like I said before, I'm really looking forward to having this one-on-one intentional time with my child. And just because we're here and I already have it open, I want to show you in the back where they have the optional how to write letters section in the back of their book. Last year we implemented something in our homeschool called Mail Monday, where for handwriting my children would write letters or notes to family members or friends, and it was such a fun way to work on their handwriting and to keep the art of handwritten letters alive. And so I'm excited to do that again with my kids in the fall, and I'm excited to go through this lesson with my daughter to help her hone in on her letter writing skills. Last year there were no rules on how to write the letters. I just let her kind of write however she wanted to write to her friends and cousins or grandparents. But this will be really helpful this year to show her how to write a proper thank you note, how to write a proper friendly letter, and then it even has how to write a proper business letter, which obviously she won't be needing anytime soon, but it's a great time to introduce her to these concepts. Thank you guys so much for watching this video today. I really appreciate every view and every like, so if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And then also, I love to chat with you guys in the comments and really build up this homeschool community. So if you have any experience with first language lessons, I'd love to hear about it. Or if you found this video helpful, I'd also love to hear that from you as well. Lastly, be sure to subscribe to my channel before you head out so you can see more of my curriculum picks for 4th grade and 1st grade for this upcoming school year. And then be sure to follow me over on Instagram at Pillars and Press for daily homeschool content and encouragement. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, happy homeschooling.